Setting up the 9120. Some basic cord concepts begin with this cord comes from the wall and then plugs into the line port on your phone. This is an RJ11 cord, and that it only fits in the line port on your phone. When you're plugging or hooking up the 9120 to your phone, you're going to be using either the handset port or a dedicated headset port on your phone, depending on your phone. That cord is going to be hooked up or use the telephone cord that comes with the 9120, and it is a smaller RJ9 connector, and that plugs into either where the handset or receiver goes or into a dedicated headset jack on the phone. Now let's hook up the 9120 with a desk phone, one that does not have a dedicated headset jack. The theory behind it is when we lift up on the handset or receiver, that lifts up on this hook switch. This switch controls when the call goes through the handset or receiver port on the side or on the back of the phone, depending on where it's located on your phone. So what we want to do is we want to introduce the 9120 to that port and then continue the connection after that to the handset or receiver. Way to do that is the 9120 comes with a modular connector. It actually has two modular connections on each end, and one end goes into the phone where the handset or receiver plugs into. The other end of this cord plugs into the base of the 9120, where there's a picture of a full telephone underneath the base. Plug that in there. Now we take the handset or receiver cord, the curly cord, and then plug that in all the way on the end where the picture of just the handset or the receiver is. Now we'll take the base and put it back on. So now, when we take the handset out of the cradle, you still have the call on the handset, or should if it's hooked up correctly. After that, you take the headset out of the base, and that'll switch the call from the handset to the headset. You can also see the link icon on the side of the base. Now, there's even a third way to control the call. The center button on the headset is the multifunction button. Pushing and releasing that will switch the call over to the handset and then switch it back over to the headset. When you're done with the call, you put the headset back in the base, and then that'll switch the call over to the handset or receiver, and then you can hang up. You can do it in the other order, where you put the handset in the base first and then put the headset back in its base. Either way, it'll disconnect the call once the handset is back in the base. Now sometimes, even though you have a dial tone through the handset of the phone, you might not have a dial tone in the headset. And the reason could be because the compatibility switch on the back of the base is not set correctly. What this switch does, and a lot of people think that it's a volume setting, is what it actually does is set the compatibility or rearranges the wire pattern from the base to the phone. Usually the correct setting is set all the way up to the top, your thumb scrolling it all the way up. Setting A, if you can actually see the letters in here. They're a little small and it's difficult for me to see them, and I know where they are. But try that, and if you still don't get anything out of the headset, then try each one of the settings going down and see if you get a dial tone that way. When you finally land on one, that's it. Keep it there and then use the headset on that setting. Now, if you're using the remote handset lifter, you're going to take the cord that comes with the lifter and you're going to plug that into the base of the 9120 where the auxiliary port is. The auxiliary port is right next to the power cord. Plug that into there and then put the base back on. So now, when you take the headset out of the base, it'll lift on the remote handset lifter. You can also push the multifunction button on the middle of the headset, and that'll also lift and lower the remote handset lifter. When you put that back in the base, the lifter lowers. Now, mounting this to the phone usually is pretty easy. I modified the bottom of it, moved some tape from some mounting tape, which I got at a hardware store, and then I placed that underneath the handset, almost all the way up to the neck of the receiver, and then push down. So now, when I take the headset out of the base, it'll lift the handset off the cradle, opening up the connection. When I put this back in the base, the lifter goes back down, and that terminates the call. Once again, if I take it out, it'll lift. If I push the multifunction button, it goes back down. It's important to note on your phone, when you answer it, if you have to pick up on the handset and push a line button in order to answer, then the remote handset lifter won't work with that configuration. Phones have to be programmed in such that when you lift up on the handset or receiver, it immediately answers the incoming ringing without pushing a line button. Once the phone is programmed that way, then the remote handset lifter will work. Usually the programming can be done over the phone from either the manufacturer of the phone or from the people who did the telephone install. Once you have that done, then when there's an incoming call, take the headset out of the base, and then it'll answer the ringing line.